Hi there, and welcome to Divine Resolution Tarot. For those of you who are new or have never seen this reading before that I do, I'm just pulling one card and I'm going to let you know everything that I see. And then after that, I will pull you an affirmation card. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to read for all of you again. It is truly an honor and a pleasure. All right, guys, we got the Tower in the reverse for your card. All right. I feel like something either has ended in your life and it's surprising you that it doesn't bother you like you thought it would, or it's very possible that you're seeing that there's something going on in your life that just isn't really worth your energy or attention anymore. And so you're making the decision to do something else. I feel as though whatever this is originally presented itself as like an opportunity, but it would have required you to either commit to something that it feels like it's just not worth the hassle, or maybe you don't have the energy to give at this time, or you would have had to change something in your life to be able to have room for whatever this is in such a way that it's just not worth the effort, right? Like you're not willing to give up what you would need to give up to acquire this one thing, okay? There's some sort of chaos around you. And if this hasn't already started, this is coming. And so this is kind of like not a warning because I don't think it's that deep, but it's just Spirit's way of letting you know that whatever is happening around you to like your family, your friends, or even at work, it's not your job to fix, right? I feel like 70% of you are going to feel like I don't need to do anything about this. There's nothing I can do about this for the simple fact that I've tried to do this in the past, or I've tried to help or fix this in the past, and it just sucks me in, right? And 30% of you will probably take that same stance, but there's going to be some kind of like guilt that you feel, or obligation of like, well, that is my whoever, right? Or, I don't think anybody's going to do this if I don't. And so this is your permission to allow the chips to kind of fall where they may, not feel as though you have to put yourself in a situation to rectify someone else's screw up. Like there's something going on where it feels like somebody keeps recreating the same type of dynamic, or they keep recreating the same like toxic situations in their life. For those of you that have like friends who are in relationships, it could be that they have chosen a partner that everybody is like, that person isn't good for you, or they've shown you so many times like why you should probably do something else, but you don't, right? And it feels like in the past, maybe you've come to this person's aid, or you've tried really hard to be like the voice of reason or some sort of support. But in doing that, it's almost like whoever this is takes your advice and then they do the opposite, right? And so it's kind of like good energy thrown after, like, I don't want to say bad people or bad situations, but it's like whoever this is has made their choice. And so maybe they're just like venting, but they're not really looking to change anything in their life, and I think that you've seen this probably more than once from this person, right? Or once they get out of a particular situation, they recreate the same dynamic with a new partner, right? Or a new job. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever this is. And really it's not your problem to fix, So this is Spirit's way of just kind of letting you know, like, hey, just because you're available to listen, it doesn't mean that you need to, or just because you could help, it's not even really your job, right? You don't want to enable people when source is trying to like teach them a lesson by showing them the same thing over and over, right? It's kind of that energy. Now, as far as you, this is actually really good because it feels like there's things in your life that maybe you haven't been paying attention to as much, right? Could be something that at one time, like I said, was an opportunity, and you felt like, okay, I can do this, I can commit to this. It's almost like your desire to keep showing up for whatever this is has kind of started to dissipate, right? And what's interesting about life is, like, I think you'll notice if you look like in the past, when you stop paying attention to something, it's almost like it kind of withers away, kind of dies, right? And so for you, there's something that it feels like has been like a huge time suck, and it's actually disconnected you from your true path. Okay. So, it could be a career that at one time you felt very passionate about and you're willing to be all in, and now you're like, I'm not very enthusiastic about this anymore, right? Or it could be, a hobby or whatever, but it's something that it feels like you haven't been doing for a while, that started to kind of fall apart without your attention, and you're being given an opportunity to try to like breathe life back into whatever this is, and you're being given the permission to not breathe life into whatever this is, because even if it made you feel safe or it made you feel stable or it seemed like the right thing at the time, I think deep down you realize that there's something about this situation that's keeping you exactly where you are, right? It's time to let this go and let this just kind of be a part of your past. And I feel like you're pretty comfortable with that, even if you feel that knee jerk reaction of like, well, I invested so much time into this, or, I thought that if I just gave it that one more try, right? So try not to worry too much about this, even though it may feel like it needs your immediate attention. It's gonna fall apart regardless of what you do. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you've built this tower, and you have to literally physically stay there and support it. And if you don't support it, it's gonna tumble. But think of all the things you could be doing if you weren't trying to hold up this one thing, right? So whether this is like a friendship, a relationship, some kind of enterprise you were trying to build for yourself, this is more work than it's worth. It's taking you away from your true purpose, right? Maybe this only came into your life to kind of direct you in a different way, or, so that you could see, if you take an opportunity, at least you won't regret it, right? Like, say you didn't ever try and you wouldn't know, and then you spend your life thinking, like, well, what if I would have went to med school, and my life would be so much better. This is kind of like you went to med school and you hated it, and that's okay, right? But you had to see it for yourself so that you would feel the release of being able to do something else. For some of you, whatever this is, it was really to please someone else. Maybe you had a parent that was like, oh, you would make a great whatever, right? You've been playing saxophone your whole life. You got to try for first chair. And it didn't work out. But I think if you really look deep in your heart, was that your dream or was that someone else's? You know what I'm saying? Or if that was your dream, were you expressing it in an authentic way? Like, say music is your dream, but maybe it's not your dream to be in the orchestra. Maybe it's your dream to be in a garage band that does gigs at a bar every Saturday, right? So whatever this is, it may feel like it's happening to you, but I promise that it's happening for you to make new room in your life, for something that's a lot more satisfying. So try not to worry about that too much, okay? Now, as far as love, if any of you are interested in what's going on with that, it looks like there's somebody who thought that they were making, this is going to sound so dumb. They thought they were making the right decision because it was what they felt was like, I'm being guided to do this. But they weren't even in touch with like a higher source to be picking up on like what a guide would tell them. In reality, they were operating through like their trauma, their fear. There's like a huge need to ignore everything that they've seen or should have learned. It's almost like they gaslighted themselves into thinking that if they disconnected from you, it was actually better because maybe you were the one that was so toxic or whatever, right? Or you were controlling. Like, this person has told themselves like these kind of weird narratives about like who you were to them or how you showed up in their life. And so they made all these choices to go try to create other things, like to give themselves evidence of like why you were the one in the wrong, right? And, if you're not dealing with somebody that you're like, yeah, I can see that. This could even be friends or family. Okay. So take it how it resonates. But it's like this person, honestly, honest to God, felt like if they got away from you, their whole life would just like magically transform, and the heavens would open up, and like you were the problem, right? So don't take it too personal if there's someone you're interested in and you see them like doing everything else or ignoring you or being weird. It's because they literally projected all of their problems onto you. Now, the universe didn't like that because you came into this person's life to be a blessing, right? Or to be a guide to them. And that's all you ever tried to do was to love or to guide them. But because they had so much like insecurity or like really like toxic ways, they took all that you gave them and they distorted it into something that was so ugly, right? Like, oh, this person is just trying to tell me what to do. And it's like you literally told them that they should love themselves more, right? Like it's that energy where you could tell them like, oh, you're such a good person. Like, I wish you saw that about yourself. And instead of them hearing that and internalizing it, it's like their demons flip it around and it's like, look at this person criticizing you, telling you you don't know who you are. How dare they think they know you better than you know yourself? You get what I'm saying? So, like, this person now, they're having to deal with what they've created in such a way that they have to realize that everything they touch kind of turns to shit, whether you're there or not, because you were never the problem. Okay. So, this person, and for those of you who are like really big empaths, you may be feeling their energy, right? Because this person is kind of coming to the end of the road where they're having to look at what they've built since you've been apart and see like there's nowhere else to run. There's no one else to blame. This really is me. I am the problem, right? And you know, you were only trying to help them, but because of their kind of toxicity, they distorted it to fit the narrative that they wanted to live in, right? And so the person that's coming through in this reading, they're having to walk away from that, right? They're having to look at the fact that for all the time that they've been ignoring you or mistreating you or not speaking to you, they've acquired very little in their life. And so you weren't the scapegoat, you weren't the reason, right? It really is them. And in them having to see that, it will eventually lead them to have to walk away from what they built, right? From that false narrative of like, I'm so misunderstood, I'm the victim, I'm the whatever. It's really been keeping that person stuck. And the universe actually brought you into that person's life to like shake them out of that, right? But they were resisting and kind of staying. For some of you, this person had such a way of staying with like the past or staying with exes or with like really limiting beliefs that no matter what you said, you could never pull them out of it. And that's because that's where they were, that's where they lived. And so I feel like this happening to them, that's really gonna wake them up so that they have to see things for what they are instead of what they wanted to pretend to be. Okay. Now, as far as on a spiritual level for you, I feel like you could be experiencing some insecurities of your own, probably second guessing some of the choices that you're thinking about making at this time. So I want you guys to be very, very aware of the inner voice that you're hearing right now, right? Like, is this something that I'm hearing because it's the universe trying to guide me or protect me? Or are these like my own fears? You know, are these things that I'm avoiding having to face about myself? And so I'm allowing them to dictate my narrative or where I'm going, right? It's very possible that you could be offered something really cool. And instead of you jumping at the opportunity, you could start having all these kind of like reasons creep up in your mind of like why you wouldn't be a good fit or why this thing couldn't work out for you. So just be very cognizant of that. Like, is there any like trauma or any beliefs that I'm still holding that are stopping me from like really moving into my best life, right? Because it looks like you have made the conscious decision that you want more for yourself. And so you will be presented with more. I just want you to be very aware of any way that you could possibly be sabotaging yourself and then telling yourself, like, well, I dodged a bullet by not accepting that job that paid double because I probably would have got fired anyway, right? Like, be mindful of being honest with yourself, right? And trying to figure out where are these voices coming from? Where is this these messages coming from, right? Are they really for my highest good and they're really protecting me? Or is this just my own insecurities keeping me from stepping into the life that I want and that I'm trying to build for myself, right? All right, guys, for those of you who are not aware, I always pull an affirmation card at the end of the reading. These cards are really cool. They give you something to contemplate, journal about, meditate on, and then they give you an affirmation. And something that I thought would be kind of cool, and you guys don't have to do it if you don't want to, but for these questions that I'm asking, if you want or if you feel comfortable sharing, feel free to comment your answer down below, as well as put the affirmation if that's something that you feel like resonates with you. So your question is, when have I stood up for myself recently and how did it make me feel? So are you guys avoiding a conflict in your life with this tower? It's very possible that somebody is trying to make you do something that you feel like isn't in your highest good. And unfortunately, if that is the case, with what I'm seeing here, you would absolutely have to kind of turn your back on that person, because they are just so invested in what they believe in and what they think is right for you that you wouldn't be able to sway their decision. And that's kind of what I was seeing in the beginning, where it's like something that looked like an opportunity would require you to change or commit too much, more than what it's worth. So again, when have I stood up for myself recently? How did it make me feel? Your affirmation is, I stand up for myself, right? So whatever it is that you feel like perhaps is being pushed upon you that isn't what you want, it's time for you to let that go, and it's time for you to stand on that. Don't feel guilty if you don't pick up the phone for that draining, toxic whoever, right? Or if you have this person who's like, oh, I realized that you were in my life for a reason. You don't have to feel like you need to validate that person with more of your attention. You could just be like, cool, thanks for letting me know. Have a good day, right? All right, guys, this has been your one card pull. Thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to read for you, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye.